Chapter 19. Bad News. We waited as the massive gate creaked open, inch by inch before grinding to a halt. From behind it an old man emerged, silent as stone, and waved us in. Surprised, I glanced at Keenan. He looked just as stunned. Throm muttered something under his breath, but we couldn't make it out as we stepped into the wide courtyard. Training equipment lay scattered across the space, abandoned mid-use. A long table stood off to one side. Several doors led to other wings of the castle, but the eerie silence wrapped around us like a shroud as we crossed the open ground. "Excuse me, where is everyone?" Keenan asked hesitantly. The old man turned to look at him. A single tear welled in his eye and slid down his cheek. Without a word he turned and continued toward a door on the far side of the courtyard, leaving it open behind him. Throm had already drawn his weapon. "We're heading towards the barracks and then the keep," he murmured. "Something's not right." Apart from the faint whistle of wind and the fluttering of torn banners, the castle was deathly quiet. The old man led us through a doorway into a dimly lit hallway. Bedrooms lined both sides, but the sight that met us made our stomachs turn. Broken doors hung from their hinges, shattered furniture lay strewn across the stone floor. Tattered remnants of once elegant tapestries clung to the walls. Weapons and armor lay abandoned and damaged, silent witnesses to a violent struggle. Flickering torchlight cast long, warped shadows, deepening the sense of despair. Dust hung thick in the air. Whatever grandeur this place once held was buried under layers of ruin. Pale light filtered through narrow slits in the walls, casting a ghostly glow over the wreckage. The old man shuffled through it all, leading us to the final doorway. As we passed a room on the right, Keenan paused, his eyes glistening. "This was my room," he whispered. He looked at me, sorrow etched across his face. I placed a hand on his shoulder, unsure what to say. Throm stood near another room, staring silently into the dark. I could only guess it had been his. Keenan clenched his jaw, tightened his grip on his sword, and pressed on. The old man pushed aside a broken door, revealing a large common room with long tables and a podium, once used for speeches, lessons, and rites of passage. Signs of battle were everywhere. Tables hacked to splinters, chairs overturned and shattered. The air felt heavy, like the room itself remembered. At the far end sat another old man in a large chair, cradling a helm in his hands. He sat in silence, unmoving. Throm and Keenan quickly approached. Throm knelt beside him, trying to meet his gaze, while Keenan stood silently at his side, waiting. The guide who had brought us quietly vanished into thin air. At last the man in the chair spoke, his voice barely more than a whisper. "The poor boys never had a chance," he said, placing a trembling hand on the helm. "They came in and killed the trainers first, then they subdued the boys, beat them with clubs and staffs." His eyes lifted unfocused as if staring through us. "Then they opened portals and took whoever survived. I tried to stop them," he continued, his body beginning to shake. "But they broke me. My frail body was no match." I stiffened, startled by his words, and glanced at Keenan. He turned toward Throm, whose expression darkened as he slowly rose to his feet. The old man lowered his gaze. "I tried to save them," he whispered, "but they were taken. And they will be—" He trailed off into silence. Throm exhaled grimly. "The old man is an illusion. A final message for any paladin who might return." Keenan turned away and let out a frustrated yell, his grief and rage echoing through the ruined hall. "This was Eldrin," Throm said quietly. "He was the master here for decades. A good man. He was close to retirement, I think." We turned back to the flickering image. Eldrin sighed. "I can't hold on much longer. But... His image glitched, jittered with each word. "I have failed them. I have failed them. I have failed them." Throm raised a hand and dispelled the magic. The illusion vanished. He bowed his head. "May your spirit find peace, Master Eldrin, teacher of many great paladins." Merrick let out a weary sigh. He was one of the last I truly enjoyed speaking with. He paused, then added more softly, "I'm tired of watching friends die while I'm left to carry on. One day I'll finally join my brothers in peace, without any more death." We all stood in silence. Then Keenan turned to Throm. "We need to check the armory." Throm nodded. There may still be gear left that could be important. We followed them quickly to the armory, only to find the metal door torn from its hinges and the room completely empty. There were weapons here that could be devastating in the wrong hands, Keenan muttered, staring at the bare walls and shelves. Throm exhaled. Yes, but there's nothing we can do now except hope they didn't get them. Then his eyes narrowed. The light is still emitting. Keenan's eyes widened. Maybe she survived. Throm nodded and led us down a narrow corridor. We stopped in front of a door sealed with magic. He muttered an incantation and the seal dissolved. As the door creaked open, he turned to us. We'll just be a moment, he said, stepping inside with Keenan. Rieger muttered something about checking on something and wandered off, leaving me alone with Lily. She had been unusually quiet. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft, almost fragile. Brother? I turned to her. Yeah? This time, we kill them all, so this never happens to anyone else again. Tears streamed down her freckled cheeks. Even if I have to die, I don't ever want to see something like this ever again. I stepped forward and wrapped her in a hug. Hey, I whispered, it's going to be okay. She wiped her face and looked up at me, managing a small, grateful smile. Thanks, bro. Then, pushing me away, she added, if you tell anyone about this, I'll beat you up. I chuckled. Don't worry, your secret's safe with me. Just then, Keenan stepped out of the room. What secret? He asked, raising an eyebrow. I glanced at Lily, who shot me a warning glare, and shook her head slightly. I smirked. Lily farted. She sighed. Yep, that's actually much worse. I laughed until Throm stepped out, his expression grim. She's alive, he said, but she's asking to see Lily. Me? Lily blinked in surprise. Throm nodded. She shrugged. All right, and then disappeared into the room. I turned to Throm. How bad is it? He sighed, the weight of the world in his eyes. There aren't many paladins left, maybe not enough to train new ones, but she says there's still hope and never give up, no matter how bleak things look. He managed a small, weary smile. Ha, I scoffed. Easier said than done. We waited 15 minutes before Lily returned. Her expression was somber at first, but slowly a smile crept back onto her face. Now I've got a secret I can't even tell my brother, she teased. I rolled my eyes. Oh, really? She laughed. All right, enough of that, though. It's time to go kick some demon butt. We need to get back to the mountain. I smiled as Throm gave a slight bow. Of course, he said, already heading for the door. Keenan shook his head at me as he passed, whispering, You two dragons think you're so special. I smirked. Well, yeah, a bit. He smiled, shaking his head. We found Rieger meditating in the courtyard. As we approached, he spoke calmly, his voice steady. In warfare, there is always sadness, fear, and death, he said. Then, rising to his feet, he placed a hand on mine and Keenan's shoulders. But hope can never be destroyed as long as we fight for what we love. Lily rolled her eyes. Ugh, you elves. Go write a book or a song or something. Sheesh. We all laughed and made our way to the docks, where we waited for the fishermen to return. To honor the fallen, we erected a memorial gravestone. Throm and Keenan cast a spell to keep the dead's likeness illuminated. As the gentle glow settled over the stone, they each looked down, filled with reverence and sorrow. When the ship finally arrived, we boarded in silence. The captain stood at the helm, eyeing us as we climbed aboard. How did it go? He asked. No one responded. The weight of what had happened hung too heavily in the air. The captain nodded, sensing our grief. I see, he murmured, then turned to his crew. Head back to the mainland. As the ship pulled away, Throm quietly gave the captain a brief account of what had transpired. The captain listened, then smiled knowingly. Eldrin was smarter than I think any of us realized. We all turned toward him confused. He chuckled. For the past 7 days, he's been giving us crates to smuggle into town. We delivered the last one 2 days ago. His grin widened. Pretty sure that's the armory you lost. Throm bolted upright. This isn't some kind of joke, is it? Because I wouldn't find it funny if it is. The captain smirked. You know me as Ramus, he said. Then with a dramatic pause and a sweeping bow, he added, But my true name is Solvarius, Paladin of the Second Order. Merrick snapped. Wait, the Second Order? That order hasn't existed in over 1,500 years. The captain's smile only deepened. Ah, my dear grumpy old Merrick. We never disappeared, we've simply been hiding. And don't worry, there are more of us than you might think. Once the world reaches a tipping point, we're instructed to emerge and fulfill our secondary duty. And that is, Rieger asked, To save the world, of course, Silverius added with a wink. I almost laughed. Wait, if saving the world is your secondary duty, then what's your primary one? Silverius grinned. Preserving all Paladins' literature and weaponry. Everything's safe, stored in a vault beneath Gisham City. Merrick muttered, Well, I'll be a worthless piece of metal. Throm smiled. Given the circumstances, this is incredible news. Keenan's eyes widened. So the library and the armory weren't destroyed or stolen. Silverius chuckled. No, sir. They were emptied by us. We moved everything before the attack. Then turning to Throm, he added, We may need to relocate the cache again. The dwarves' halls might be the last truly safe place left. Throm nodded. Agreed. As the harbor came into view, the weight on our shoulders felt a little lighter. We still mourned the fallen, but knowing the Second Order had survived, and that the sacred knowledge and weapons of the Paladins had been preserved, was more hope than we dared to believe in. Just as we neared the harbor, the ship we watched earlier made a turn towards us. Ramus chuckled. Ah, so now they come for us, eh? He folded his arms with a smirk. Well, I think they're in for a surprise. The other ship swung alongside ours, sails flaring as it matched our pace. Its captain grinned, smug, far too confident. Ramus, or rather Silverius, met his gaze coolly. So, Silverius called, how can we help you, my little pirate friend? The pirate captain's grin twisted into something darker. Now, Captain, that's no way to greet someone offering help. Silverius raised an eyebrow. Help? By lightening our hold of fish, perhaps? He gestured toward the cargo hold. The pirate chuckled. Not at all. I've simply heard rumors, dangerous people about, certain assets being transported. Thought we might assist in keeping them safe. Silverius' smile faded. His voice dropped. We're not easily persuaded. The pirate leaned forward. Of course not. But we're prepared to offer protection, for a modest fee. Say half of the weapons you've been smuggling aboard. Silverius scoffed. You won't get a single herring, let alone weapons. And if you push this, you'll regret ever setting sail, and won't ever again. The pirate's grin widened. You misunderstand. I have something not even your paladin brothers can stop. He held up a glowing orb, pulsing with unnatural light. So, why don't you tell me where the weapons are? Silverius hesitated, unsure of what the orb was, and surprised by the pirate's confidence. Throm stepped forward, sword drawn at his side. We stand with you, Silverius. Around us, the fishermen threw off their outer coats, revealing chainmail and weapon belts beneath. Keenan grinned. I've never seen more than 2 paladins fight at once. This is going to be awesome. He unsheathed his sword. The pirate captain sneered. So you have all chosen death. He raised the orb. Then a small voice sliced through the rising tension. Okay, you slimy, rat-infested, mold-covered, algae-eating son of a sickly goat, Lily snapped. I blinked, trying to process her insult. She kept going. I just had one of the worst days of my life, so if you don't throw down your weapons and surrender right now, I will burn your ship to the seafloor and boil the ocean around you. Got it? Everyone stared at her. Then the pirate crew burst into laughter. The captain wheezed. You're joking. This little girl is your secret weapon. I felt myself start to sweat. I turned to Lily. Lil? She looked at me, eyes blazing. Brother? Are they laughing at me? I swallowed hard. Well, they don't know any better. Just stay calm. I am calm, she said flatly. The laughter only grew. I raised my hands. Guys, seriously, stop laughing. She's had a really bad day. The pirate captain cut me off with a smirk. This little show's been fun, but it ends now. He chuckled and tossed the orb towards the water. Before the orb could hit the surface, a massive claw snatched it from the air. Smoke poured from Lily's nostrils as she loomed over the ship, now fully transformed into her dragon form. She rolled the orb in one claw, then scoffed. This is your weapon? Pathetic, she bellowed. The pirate crew stood frozen, gaping at the enormous dragon perched on the back of our ship, causing it to sink dangerously low in the water. Lily casually flicked the orb off into the distant horizon. Then with a single bound, she landed on the pirate ship, scooped up the captain in her jaws, and shook him like a rag doll. With a violent flick of her neck, she flung him after the orb. Go fetch your little toy, you jerk. Her voice cracked like thunder, shaking both ships. She turned, eyes blazing on the rest of the crew. Anyone else want to laugh at me? The pirates whimpered and shook their heads, frozen in fear. Good, she bellowed. You all work for me now, understand? They nodded, cowering and mumbling agreements. Then Lily shrank back into her human form, beaming with pride. Hey guys, I got my own ship. How cool is this? She waved excitedly across the water. I chuckled and shook my head. Unbelievable. Hey Keenan, she called. I'm Lily, the pirate queen. Fear me. Then she spun towards the nearest sailor. All right, we're taking this bad boy into port. Show me how this wheel thingy works. The man scrambled to comply as the rest of us stood there in stunned silence. Well, Silveris said at last, that was anticlimactic and incredible at the same time. Thrum sighed. Yep, that's our hammer. We all laughed. Silveris glanced round. By the way, which one of you is that good with illusions? Our group exchanged knowing looks. I guess you'll have to figure that one out for yourself, I said, shaking my head with a grin. We laughed again as Lily's triumphant voice echoed over the waves, barking orders at her new crew as her ship sailed ahead of us into port.